Hello and welcome everyone to this week's BFG review. Now before I get started, I want to give a brief explanation of why I haven't posted a new video in some time. Long story short, I just moved to a new state and recently started a new job. So I haven't really had much time to go see any new movies, let alone make a video on them. And as always, I want to give a special thanks to anyone who's watched my previous videos and an extra special thanks for your patience with me these past few months. Now, with all that out of the way, on to this week's review, which is It Chapter 2. Directed by Andy Muschietti and starring James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ranson, Andy Bean, and Bill Skarsgård. This film follows the Losers Club 27 years after their first encounter with Pennywise the Clown, as they all must travel back to Derry to fulfill an oath they made to destroy the evil monster if it ever returned. Before I get into my feelings towards this film, I want to give my thoughts on the previous film, as well as my general thoughts on the horror genre overall. Now, I'm not a big horror fan. To be honest, I've only seen one other horror film in theaters, and that was Paranormal Activity 3. And for most of it, I watched it through my fingers and couldn't even sleep that night. So like I said, not a big horror fan. So when the first It came out, I didn't rush and go see it. It wasn't until I heard all the praise for it and everyone saying how great it was, did I finally break down and rent it on Redbox and then watch it in the safety of my living room with all the lights on in the middle of the day. And even then, it still scared the hell out of me. I understood why everyone loved the film and honestly got really excited for the sequel. Now, when I sat down in the theater for It Chapter 2, I gotta be honest, I was really nervous. And not for the quality of the film, but more for myself, if I was gonna be able to get through this film without running out of the theater. But as the movie began and I got through the first scene, I felt at ease, and then I got into the film and was really able to enjoy this movie. And while I think that the first It was an objectively better made film and better told story, I found myself enjoying It Chapter 2 much more. I think a lot of that comes down to this great cast who has some amazing chemistry. These actors really feel like they've been friends for years and they all know each other. It also helps that we met these characters in the previous film, so they don't have to spend as much time developing their characteristics and personalities. Like I said, these actors really make you feel like you're watching the adult version of the Losers Club. And most of the characters in this get pretty decent character arcs, especially Billy, Richie, and Eddie. Honestly, the cast was nearly perfect for me, all except Jessica Chastain. I don't really know why, but there was something about her performance that just really didn't feel like Bev to me. It just seemed like she was missing that fiery spark that made Bev so likable in the first film. But Bill Hader makes up for that more than enough. He steals every single scene he's in. He's hilarious throughout most of the film, but he easily switches from cracking jokes to being terrified flawlessly. Also, James Ranson is the perfect Eddie. He captures all the nervous tics and speech patterns from his younger counterpart. He also has a few decent laughs throughout the film. Like I said, the rest of the cast does great work, but I think Bill Hader and James Ranson are the two biggest standouts. I do, however, wish we saw more of Isaiah Mustafa as Mike, especially since, one, he's the Old Spice guy, so that's amazing, and two, we didn't really get a lot of Mike in the first film, and I was kind of hoping this one would make up for it. Honestly, he's almost completely forgotten in the entire second act, which is my biggest issue with the film. The second act slows way down and separates the losers, which personally I just didn't find as compelling. There are also several flashbacks to the younger losers, which, while providing some decent scares, to me stop the story in its tracks. It seems like some of those scenes could have easily been put in It Chapter 1 so that we could spend more time with the adults in Chapter 2. Also, if you keep up with movie news, you know that the filmmakers had to use de-aging technology on some of the younger actors. And to me, it was really noticeable and kind of distracting, especially with Finn Wolfhard. And while that CG could be distracting, the rest of the film's effects looked beautiful. And again, Bill Skarsgård was put on this earth to play Pennywise. He is equal parts charming, hilarious, and just downright terrifying. And I couldn't imagine anyone else taking on this iteration of the evil clown. This movie was also way funnier than it had any right to be. Between the losers ripping on each other and some hilarious visual gags, this is honestly one of the funniest films I've seen this year. And that's what I think makes this film so enjoyable. It is an amazing at balancing both tense and terrifying moments with more light-hearted and fun moments. While I think the first film is far more frightening, this one still has enough scary scenes to satisfy any horror fan. The last thing I'll say about this film is that it deals with a very universal issue about how past trauma can return and the very ways and how to deal with it. So, in the end, It Chapter 2 is a horrifying yet fun time in the theater with great chemistry between the leads, a terrifying villain, and a good universal message. Despite a few pacing issues in the middle third, I believe It Chapter 2 earns an A- letter grade. Also, just a heads up, the ending of this film does get a little out there science fiction-y with the explanation of what exactly it is. So kind of be ready for that. So, those are my thoughts on It Chapter 2. Let me know your thoughts on the film, as well as your thoughts on the drawing, in the comments section down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon to be notified anytime I put up a new video. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.